Before we begin, I need you to answer one question. Who was the greatest Stark? The answer will probably surprise you. And by the end of this video, it might even make you angry. There has never been a family quite like the Starks in the history of television. In a world built on scheming, betrayal, and the relentless hunger for power, the Starks were something almost impossibly rare. They were good. And that goodness, that stubborn, ancient, wolf-blooded honor, made them the most beloved family in Game of Thrones history. It also made them the most devastated. Today, we rank all 10 of them. Some entries will hurt. Some will surprise you. And number one might just start a war in the comments. You have been warned. Winter is coming. Benjen Stark. He rode north into darkness in episode 3 and vanished for seasons. When he finally returned, half dead, half undead, saved by the children of the forest, he was something no other Stark had ever become, a man caught between the living and the dead, choosing to fight on the right side anyway. His best moment? Riding out of the fire beyond the wall to save Jon, sacrificing himself so his nephew could live. One gesture, maximum devastation. The tragedy of Benjen is a tragedy of storytelling itself. He was set up to matter enormously, and the show never truly paid that off. His mystery was his greatest strength and his greatest flaw. Benjen Stark is a placeholder for a story the show never had time to tell. In the books, his mystery runs deeper, and his answers may still be coming. The countdown continues, and it only gets harder from here. Rickon Stark. Rickon Stark is ranked last not because he was unimportant, but because his death is perhaps the most devastating proof of what Game of Thrones does best. It destroys innocence without apology. He was the youngest Stark. He had no agenda, no war strategy, no arc of moral complexity. He was a child, and Ramsay Bolton used him like an arrow aimed at Jon's heart. That zigzag run across the field of battle was one of the cruelest, most perfectly constructed moments of tension in the entire series. He had a direwolf named Shaggy Dog. He deserved a story. He got a body in the mud. Westeros is not kind to innocence. Rickon's death hits harder in retrospect, because it proves that in this world, even being good and young and Stark is no protection at all. Lyanna Stark. She appeared in fewer than 10 minutes of screen time. She changed the fate of the entire world. Lyanna Stark, the girl who allegedly started Robert's rebellion, the woman who secretly married Rhaegar Targaryen, the mother who made Ned Stark carry the greatest lie in Westerosi history, is the hidden engine of every single event in Game of Thrones. His name is Aegon Targaryen. You have to protect him. Promise me, Ned. In one whispered, dying sentence. She lit the fuse on an 8-season explosion. Lyanna was not a passive figure waiting to be rescued. She made a choice. A dangerous, world-altering, dynasty-shaping choice. She ranks lower only because we witnessed so little of her. But her shadow falls over every frame of this show. Catelyn Tully Stark. Catelyn Stark is one of the most divisive characters in this franchise's history, and that division is a testament to how real she felt. She was not likable in the way protagonists are meant to be. She was difficult, sometimes reckless, occasionally cruel. Her treatment of Jon Snow being the sharpest edge of her character. She resented an innocent child for being living proof of a wound she could never stop touching. But her love for her children? That was elemental, primordial, the kind of love that ignores strategy and burns everything down, including herself. Releasing Jaime Lannister was catastrophic, and yet completely human. Watching her scream at the Red Wedding, watching her pull that last hopeless act of violence, was one of the most gut-destroying moments in TV history. She wasn't a great strategist. She was a great mother, and this world killed her for it. Blood of the first man. Bran Stark. No Stark is more argued about than Bran. His arc began with the most shocking scene in pilot television history. A child thrown from a window by a king's brother. It ended with that same child sitting on the Iron Throne. Or what replaced it? The argument about whether Bran deserved the throne has raged since 2019 and shows no sign of stopping. Here is what people miss. Bran stopped being Bran somewhere in those northern trees. What sat on that throne was something older and stranger. Not a boy, but a repository of all human memory. Is that the right king? Maybe. Is it satisfying? The jury is still out. His journey was the most mythically ambitious in the series. His payoff was the most divisive. He ranks 6 because love him or loathe him. Bran Stark changed everything from the moment he fell to the moment he was chosen. No other star transformed as completely. Robb Stark. Robb Stark never lost a battle. Not one. He was a military genius operating in a world that rewarded cunning over honor, and he beat them all on the field. He was 17, commanding lords twice his age, winning wars the older generation said were unwinnable. And then he married for love. One choice, the most human choice he ever made. And it cost him everything: his army, his crown, his mother, his life, his direwolf. The Red Wedding remains the most shocking, most emotionally annihilating event in Game of Thrones history. Not just because Robb died, but because he deserved to live. He was everything a great king should be, except for the one thing this world demanded above all else: ruthlessness. His flaw was his heart. His legacy is a lesson the whole fandom memorized. In Westeros, goodness is not armor. Sansa Stark. Early series Sansa was arguably the most frustrating character on television. Naive, compliant, dangerously trusting in a world designed to destroy exactly those qualities. Viewers were exasperated by her, and that exasperation was intentional because what came next required you to have written her off. Because the woman who walked out of King's Landing through Ramsay Bolton's horror, through manipulation by Littlefinger and imprisonment by Cersei, through everything, that woman was the most politically lethal Stark alive by the finale. Sansa's best moment wasn't a battle or a sword fight. It was the moment she looked Littlefinger in the eye and sentenced him to death. Calm, measured, utterly devastating. She had absorbed every lesson that world threw at her and used them all. And when Jon Snow rode south to bend the knee to Daenerys, it was Sansa who held the North. She earned her crown more completely than almost anyone in the entire series. Arya Stark. She was given a sword named Needle and told a lady doesn't fight. She fought anyway. She watched her father beheaded in a public square and kept living anyway. She survived the Hound, the faceless men, Bravos, the waif, Cersei's list, and, most memorably, the Night King himself. Not today. 2 words. The most cathartic, earned, perfectly delivered 2 words in the history of this franchise. Arya's transformation is one of the great character journeys in modern television. From sheltered lord's daughter to faceless assassin to the girl who killed death itself. Her flaw was the same as her strength. She loved violence so completely that she nearly disappeared into it. The moment she chose to sail west instead of returning home was her reclaiming herself. What she did and who she is finally made whole. Her ranking at 3 is the only controversial thing about her placement. Many will say she should be higher, and they are not wrong. The final 2. Breathe. Jon Snow. He died. He came back. He found out he was heir to the Iron Throne and didn't want it. He killed the woman he loved to save a world that exiled him for doing it. Jon Snow's story is a Greek tragedy dressed in northern furs, and his bittersweet ending is either a profound meditation on the cost of nobility or one of the great wastes of narrative potential in television history. Possibly both. His best moment, standing alone on the ice before the charging army of the dead. No plan, no hope, no retreat. Just a man who refuses to flinch in the face of extinction. That is who Jon Snow is, stripped down to his core. He united the North and the wildlings. He was resurrected by prophecy. He rode a dragon. He held the line at every impossible moment the story threw at him. And then he walked back beyond the wall, ghost at his side, into a story the show never got to tell. He ranks 2nd because his potential was never fully realized, and because the greatest Stark, somehow, did even more with even less. If Jon Snow is not number 1, who is? A warrior? A king? Someone who never held a sword? Scroll down. The answer is coming. And now, the moment this list was built toward. Enter Ned Stark. He was the main character. They killed him in Episode 9. In Game of Thrones, the entire, sprawling, 8-season saga was built in the crater his death left behind. Ned Stark was not the best fighter of the Starks. He was not the most cunning, the most powerful, or the most historically significant. What he remains, is the moral compass that every other character in this story was measured against. Every Stark who came after him defined themselves in relation to what he stood for: honor, truth, family, duty. When those values conflicted, which in Westeros they always do, Ned chose honor. Every time, at every cost. His best moment is impossible to choose because it is everything he didn't do. He could have bent the knee to Joffrey. He could have lied about Cersei's children and lived. He could have kept his mouth shut and survived. He didn't. He told the truth in a room full of people who would kill him for it. That moment, Ned Stark kneeling on the Great September steps, choosing honest execution over dishonest survival, redefined what television could do. Audiences expected him to be saved. Stories don't kill their heroes, except this one did. And by doing so, it told us exactly what kind of story we were watching. The rest of Game of Thrones is the world figuring out how to survive without the only man who knew how to hold it together with honor alone. His flaw was absolute. He was a good man in a world that kills good men. His strength was the same thing, and his death didn't end his story. It launched everyone else's. His children carry him in every choice they make. Arya's refusal to yield, Sansa's hard-won wisdom, Jon's reluctant sacrifice. Ned Stark didn't win the Game of Thrones. He made sure none of his children forgot what was worth fighting for instead. The greatest Stark never sat on a throne. He never commanded dragons. He was just a man who refused to stop being good. And Westeros punished him for it. And we never forgot the debatable truth. If Ned Stark had been smarter, Game of Thrones might never have happened. If he had been less honorable, none of the Stark children become who they needed to become. His death was the story's birth. That makes him, unquestionably, the greatest Stark of them all. That's the list. 10 Starks, 10 legacies. One family that held the soul of Westeros together, even as the world tried to tear it apart. But before you close this tab, I need to know where you disagree. Because I know you do. Was Ned Stark really the greatest? Or did Arya earn that top spot? Did Jon Snow deserve better? And did we get Bran's placement completely wrong? Drop your ranking in the comments and tell me which Stark the show never gave what they deserved. The North remembers, and so do we.